This is the Andres Segovia Show.
Jeff Dornik. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the Andres Segovia Show. By all means, let the audience who may not know you tell them what you do and who you are.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on the show. Been looking forward to chatting with you. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a new social media platform called Pickax, and we've been building it out for about 2 years. We're now officially in pre-launch. We're developing an app because right now we're just web-based only, but we're developing an app for smartphone that'll be rolling out here in the next couple of months. And then when that happens, we're going to be doing our official big launch as well. But it's been a wild ride. But I host a show called the Jeff Dornik Show. I've interviewed a whole host of people. Everybody from, I think I was telling you before, everybody from Bigfoot hunters to General Flynn to Senator Ron Johnson and athletes and that, just basically anybody who interests me. So have that show. I started a podcast network a few years ago called Freedom First Network. And it's kind of been dormant a little bit just because of the development of Pickaxe and building that out and all that. But I just teamed up with Matt Couch and we're rebranding and relaunching, and we're in the process of that right now. So now it's called Maverick Broadcasting Network, and we've got a whole host of awesome hosts that are on the network. Everybody from Ann Vandersteel to Mel K to Karen Kingston. We're talking to Teddy Daniels about coming on. Matt Couch and I. A whole bunch of people. So definitely be checking that out as well. But I mean, that's basically what I do. I'm a Christian conservative constitutionalist. I've been a Trump supporter since 2012 until I jumped ship and backed RFK when he ran for president. And so definitely it's been learning a lot, especially the last year or so.
No, I bet. And it really interested me because I did tune into your first episode back in a while, because I don't think you posted an episode on your show since September, I believe. So this was the first one in a while where you mentioned that this has been the Pickaxe social media platform has been in the works for a couple of years now. So yeah, that requires an investment, time, money, patience, of course, to build all this out. And you and I have talked a little bit about, and I want to give a shout out to Yoshi Schmitz of the Yoshi Schmitz Show. That's how we got acquainted, Jeff, you and I, because he joined your platform, and I asked him, I was like, so what exactly is this? Oh, I recommend you try it out. So eventually I did it, and I quickly got a feel for it, and it felt a lot like Substack, where it was more article based, which I do like. I have my own website. Everything that I have for myself is there, but I never minded publishing it elsewhere. So Substack was one of them. Locals is another, and like Yoshi and I, we both have the same philosophy, where it's like be on as many platforms as possible, and also hold everyone accountable. And that's one of the ways you do get past censorship, and try not to be entrenched too much in one camp over another. A lot of people do that. I'm sure there's some names that that have often been censored, but they would still please uncensor me on this major platform. So yes, but also put your stuff everywhere else. Don't just rely on one. So there was a great awakening moment that I'm sure we'll touch on here when it comes to X, formerly known as Twitter. But going back to Pickaxe, how did this? What was the moment where I got to do this?
Yeah, so honestly, it was shortly after Elon bought X, and
Really?
I started seeing the writing on the wall that he kept saying that X is going to be a free speech platform, and that he got a $44 billion loan in order to buy X, so that way he could turn it into a free speech platform. And I started looking at what are they doing, what's changing in the terms and conditions, who are they hiring as the new CEO, like the whole deal. And I'm like, this isn't heading down the right path. And for me, maybe I was a little bit sensitive to it because I was kicked off of X, permanently under the Jack Dorsey days, for interviewing a black conservative that was running for Senate out in Illinois. And in the middle of COVID, we were talking about why the African American community was so hesitant to get vaccinated. Like their vaccination numbers were significantly lower than other groups of people. And he brought up that it was the Tuskegee experiments, and X banned me for that one because that was promoting vaccine hesitancy, even though every single word that was said was factually accurate, and you can go find it on Wikipedia. And so for me, I was kicked off of there for the longest time, had to rebuild. I jumped over to Getter and Gab, but Getter kind of became my primary hub. And when I started seeing the way that Elon was building, I was like, he didn't spend $44 billion to buy X in order to turn it into a free speech platform. He's doing it in order to develop his own artificial intelligence, which then he rolled out as Grok, and now we're seeing the development of all of that, because what he's using our data. If you look at the way that he built Tesla, a Tesla is actually one of the largest data collectors in the country, if not the world, because every time that you get into a Tesla car and you plug your phone in to the car, they're able to collect your data off of your phone. That's actually in the terms and conditions when you purchase a Tesla. And so they're one of the largest data collectors, especially when it comes to your movement, what you're doing in the car. They're collecting all that data. They're doing the same kind of thing with X, and they're funneling it into their artificial intelligence to make it the most relevant, up-to-date AI on the planet. ChatGPT is typically behind the 8 ball when it comes to current events, whereas with Grok, it can be up to speed because it's collecting all of our data that's on X in real time and then funneling it in there. And so for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's not good. And then I start listening to a lot of the things that he's talking about when it comes to things like Neuralink and some of these other technologies that he's developing, his worldview when it comes to escaping Earth and colonizing on Mars because of climate change and all of this. And I'm like, this is not a worldview that's conducive to what I actually believe. And I actually find it very dangerous, the development of AI and technology and transhumanism for the future of humanity. And I'm like, you start looking at this and you're like, the really big push on artificial intelligence to where they're going to begin to replace human beings on a lot of these different platforms. I'm like, we need a hub and a social media platform that's dedicated to humans, to human creators, human beings. I want to hear what you have to say, not what artificial intelligence robot technology has to say. And I think that if we can create this spot, we can kind of have this little silo of human beings that are willing to engage with each other, discuss, debate, have nuanced conversations, monetize your content, where I'm trying to amplify humans as opposed to robots and technology and centralize all the power. And so that's really what kind of really pushed a lot of this for me. And then as I, was working on building the platform and figuring out, okay, how do we want to do this? I'm just like, like everything that I do from now on is focused on how do I amplify human beings? How do I amplify your voice, your constitutional right, your God-given right to free speech? How do we amplify that? So everything that we're doing with technology is through that prism of how do we amplify humans as opposed to just let's just build technology. Like I'm not a technology guy from that standpoint. I'm a technology guy in the standpoint of how do we use technology to build up humanity, not use humanity to build up technology.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you there. It's funny, you and I if you did so around the time that Elon bought it, you and I are basically on the same page. When I was like, oh yeah, cool that we get rid of Jack Dorsey. I want to see some changes. And to his credit, X was primarily one of the major drivers for why we're able to combat the media spin lies during this last election season. But the thing I said, it's like, yeah, he just bought a data gold mine. So it's like X is not the biggest social media platform in the world. It's probably in the top 3, maybe top 5, but it's the most interactive platform by far, far exceeding the Facebook, which is the largest. So when you have that much engagement happening there, yeah, there's a reason why Grok was, what is it, version 3, version 4 now. It's far and away ahead of other AIs, maybe except DeepSeek. That I invited someone else too to also maybe give the pro side of it, since like, oh, that's a open source version of AI that supposedly open AI, which is more like closed AI, was supposed to be. But anyway, that's another thing. But I did have those concerns, and for a moment, some people were even like, "Well, Parler's back, then what was the point? What's the point of having another social media platform?" Like, I think there's still room in this space to innovate, and I did have the Parler folks on because I was very much in Parler 1.0. And I did I believe I had the first exclusive interview with their CMO last year before they launched, after her and a couple of other people bought it. So I like what you're doing over there. They become fully decentralized, and it's interesting to see where they're going to go this year. And then as Pickax came across, as I was testing out some stuff, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on some things, but it was feeling a lot like Substack, but Substack for freedom of speech platforms, not Substack for like the big tech oligarchs. What I mean by that is Substack works well with YouTube now. They're very well, like you can publish from Substack to YouTube. You can publish from Substack to bunch of different podcast distributors. And up until they introduced Notes, there was a little rift between Substack and X because they started doing their own Twitter thing. Um, but I always felt like there's more space for there to innovate, and so far I like what I've seen from Pickaxe. I like where it's going, and the people that are on there, real people, and it's I like what they're contributing so far. That's why at first I asked you, is this like LinkedIn but for journalists and business professionals and the like? And while those are there, it's not meant for them only.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I do like where it's going, and like you said, your friend Matt and you are really working towards building this out. So it's really interesting to see where it goes from here, and what can people expect from Pickaxe.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's like, looking at it, I have to weigh, how do we be a free speech platform and be responsible financially with the investment that we're putting into the
Exactly.
platform, and then also, develop new and innovative ways in order to separate ourselves from, everybody else. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of like, when I started, I'm like, okay, so what's my favorite parts of all these different platforms that I can incorporate in, or come up with just a completely new way of doing things. And what one of the things that I realize is that, like when you look at X and Facebook and some of these different platforms, they're really honing in on their own features, which I get. It's a business, and we'll probably eventually do a lot of the same kind of thing to a certain degree. But also, I'm like, it's really hard as a content creator, because I have to look at it from that perspective. As a content creator, it's really hard when you have all these different, video platforms. But then it used to be that you would use social media to, let's say, promote your Rumble or YouTube or Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But now you can't do that, because now you get demoted in the algorithms on those platforms when you
Hmm.
send people off to another platform because they want you to use their video platform or their articles or their whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, okay, so number one, live stream and video. That was the number one question I was getting from a lot of people. Are you gonna have live stream? Are you gonna have video? Are you gonna do all this stuff? And I'm like, yes, eventually. But also, at the same time, what you could do is you could just post the link from your Rumble and post it on the platform, and it's playable in the news feed or in an article. You don't have to, like, quote unquote embed it or forget the code. You literally just post the link and it's playable. Same thing with YouTube, same thing with Apple Podcasts, same thing with Spotify. So, you're just scrolling through the news feed, you can see a podcast that's not an outbound link to those platforms. It's playable right there as if it's native to the platform. And
Yeah.
so that way I can help creators to get more views, more visibility, to get people to actually be able to, hey, just click and subscribe right there on the Spotify, player that's right there in the news feed. I'm working on a couple different ways of integrating, to where you could have maybe your podcast at the top of your profile, to where it'll always show the latest episode of either
Nice.
Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Maybe be able to have your embed of your Substack, to where people could subscribe to your Substack directly from, Pickaxe or your profile. So I'm working on a few different things from that standpoint of how do we integrate and actually help creators to be able to build up their audience where they are. Because, like I was talking with one creator who they used to make 20 grand a month through social media, because they'd be writing articles, they'd be, pushing products and all that, and all of a sudden now they can't monetize at all on X except through X's
Yeah.
revenue share. So
Yeah.
their income went from $20,000 a month down to $2,000 a month. Because they can't promote anything, they can't push anybody anywhere else except in that little ecosystem.
Hmm.
And so they're like, I need to figure out another way of doing this to where I can get back to actually promoting things that will actually make me money. And so we're like, we're not going to demonetize anybody, we're not going to demote anybody in the algorithms, we're not going to do all of that. I would rather you be loyal to us, because we're helping you to succeed wherever you are succeeding, as opposed to saying, no, I'm going to have a closed ecosystem. You can only make money my way on my platform. I'm like, I'll get the loyalty and I'll figure out the monetization on my end, but I want to help you as a creator to succeed. And then I figure if I help you succeed, then you'll be loyal to us as well. So that's just kind of my mentality when it comes to that.
Yeah, and as a creator, I can tell you that definitely, I haven't heard anyone else speak like that, where it's, hey, it's usually. come to my platform, grow your audience here, and make bank.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing somebody says, you have your audience out there, let us help you kind of corral them so you can keep your audience but still be able to make the money without being punished because you're on all these different platforms. For someone like me that's across at least a dozen social media platforms, obviously I use some more than others. um, I'm at least across 60 podcast directories, not just distributors. So my podcast is all over the world. I have a worldwide audience. They're interested in some of the stuff that I cover. And then when it comes to video platforms, I think 13. So I make sure that I make myself uncancelable. But hey, I prefer tools that make it easier for me to post it everywhere. I don't want to do it manually every time. And thank God it's not manually every time. That's why I'm like, yeah, YouTube may censor me, but the reason I still post there, even though it doesn't help the algorithm, is that it auto publishes everywhere else. So, well, before we got rolling, I mentioned that YouTube picked me up as a partner. I organically grew my audience and reached nearly 1 million views when they saw the trajectory and they said, we want to partner with you. I said, okay, great. Then they gave me all the tools, made me signed. And I do read these things, by the way, the terms of service agreements and all that. It was different from what was originally just as a user on YouTube. It's like, well, as a content creator, it is different. And I totally get it. And I said, that's fine. So I did sign it and I went. So when I tell you that my channel was basically stifled from there, that in the years since, it's taken me so long to get half as many views as before. It required people to beat the algorithm to find me. And when they find me, it's like, dude, how do you not have 300,000 followers? That's usually a given. I hear that so often. They're like, oh, well, YouTube. So like, well, that explains it. It's like, because some of the stuff, it's like, hold on, you've had this individual before some of these big top dogs had them. So how do you not have the views? And unlike others, like, hey, I'm not afraid to show you my analytics. So whenever I did streams, like, look, this is what it looks like for us. And then you could see where it peters off and where you see the demonetization. Earlier last year, I shared, it's like, hey guys, look what I just got. And I just saw them email after email after email after email, like video demonetized, video limited, and all these different things are ineligible. I'm like, but these are old posts. What changed? Their terms of services. You guys keep moving the goalposts. So it was frustrating. And the only reason I was able to break the algorithm last year was because there was so much interest in this unplugged phone that Eric Prince co-founded. So that was a lot of people came over and found me that way. But at the same time, it's like, how come you're not growing beyond that? It's like, well, easy. Either they're not subscribing, they don't understand the whole like, share, and subscribe. It's annoying, but hey, that's the only way. So I can tell you one of the first things that I immediately fell in love with on your platform, and this is coming from a content creator, was the fact that I have videos all over the place. On Substack, I can embed as soon as I post the YouTube link, it'll embed the YouTube video. If I do that for a Rumble link, I can't. It's annoying. And some videos play better on different video platforms, so I choose which links I want. I believe I've embedded not just Rumble, but also Play TV on Substack. I mean, on Pickax without a problem. It just says, where's the source link? And then it even gives you an option to measure out how big you want the video to be. It's scalable. As a content creator, you guys are thinking for us. I gotta tell you, I absolutely love that, and I offer suggestions to other media platforms too whenever I get a chance to. And when I saw this, like, why, dude? That's awesome. So I love what you're thinking here. I love where you're going. I love that you're not trying to tell me that, hey, leave those other platforms, come here. No, you're telling me, hey, you have those platforms, so service them better and beat the algorithms at the same time. I absolutely love that, and kudos to you and the team. That really is an awesome objective there.
No, I appreciate that, and I have a phenomenal tech team that have built this, and literally I remember going through in the early days, and I'm like, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we make it like I remember asking, like, how difficult would it be to make, let's say, a Rumble video playable if you just post the link in the, and they're like, oh, it'd be really easy, you just do this code, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, so why is nobody else doing this? And they're like, well, because it's not financially conducive to them. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's actually do this. And then also too, our advisory CTO is awesome. And, she actually used to be over at Facebook and Instagram. And, so she has that track of understanding of how, big tech works and how social media platforms work and all that kind of stuff from the back end and the technological standpoint. So for me, wanting to be a free speech social media platform that is conducive to content creators, she's helped to guide us, to step over a lot of the hurdles that will oftentimes get thrown our way. Again, weighing, okay, how do we stay true to being a free speech platform but still be accessible everywhere and not be shut down, and deal with servers and this and that and the other thing. And so it's definitely, we have a phenomenal team, and the nice thing is that we're all on the same track when it comes to this. It's how can we set ourselves apart, and we're really trying to make it a creator first platform. And for me, I've been a content creator for several years, hosting shows and all of that. And I'm like, what would I want in a platform? And that's kind of the way that I look at it. I'm like, this is what I would want. Now I go to my tech team. Okay, now how difficult would it be to implement this? And I've got like a whole host of things that we're going to be rocking and rolling, in the coming months. Right now we're focused on developing the app, and we're going to hopefully have that out in the next couple of months. I have a really cool other innovative new feature as well that we're going to incorporate. We're going to be announcing here in a little bit as well. And so we're just going to be continually improving and rolling things out. And I always say, the way that I view Pickaxe is that it's kind of this central hub, and then everything else will flow out from it. So right now, that's, you've got Rumble and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and all these different platforms that I want you to see Pickaxe as the hub that's sending, traffic and views and all that to all these other platforms. But then as we develop new features or new platforms or whatever it is, Pickaxe will continually be that central hub, and then everything else will integrate through that. So, we may develop our own video platform, or maybe our own podcast distribution, or maybe our own, podcast app to where you can listen to it, but everything will be integrated back into the platform to where it makes it super user-friendly, playable, easy to build, and to where, like one of my biggest complaints as a creator was that, it's like, if I want to host a show, I use Ecamm Live in order to produce my show, and I self-produce everything. And then I send that feed to Restream, which distributes it to all the video platforms. And then I have to download the audio and upload it over to Spreaker, which then sends it to all the Apple Podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I've got to have Zoom or Skype, so I've got to pay for that subscription, so that way I don't get timed out. And I'm like, there's too many things. Why don't we work towards, let's just streamline everything and put everything on one platform? So that's my goal with all of this, is how can I make your life easier as a content creator? And again, we're starting from square one right now, but we're going to build into that to where it's going to make your life easier so you can focus on the content instead of all these other peripheral technological things and hoops that you have to jump through. Just focus on making good quality content, and then we'll help you get it out there and do all that kind of stuff. So that's just kind of my mentality when it comes to all of this.
Yeah, and dude, and that's how I know that you are a content creator yourself. You're coming from that perspective. Like, some people ask me, why haven't you tested out any of these Google glasses or Snap glasses or anything from Facebook? I'm like, because first off, these are tech companies trying to build a product for a thing they're not involved in. So the companies that are actually innovating in that space are the optical providers finally teaming up with tech to design it. And I'm like, well, see, they're getting it done right because they know the space. That's all they do. They sell glasses. So they know their clientele, and they know how tech can better improve that for their clientele. And that's why I'm like, I don't need glasses. So that's why I've never had to. So I don't need to wear a visor. That's what really these things are. They're just visors to augment reality or whatever. It's just it never really fascinated me. So that's how I know that you're coming from a place of something that I've wanted. And being on all these platforms, I do use a service called If This Then That. That's really helped to to streamline and automate a lot of different things. One thing that has annoyed me forever about Instagram, because I was on Instagram before Facebook ended up buying them, but as soon as Facebook bought them, they started like, oh, you want to be a professional or a content creator? Fantastic. Here are all the tools. All you need is a Facebook. Like, but I don't want Facebook. I left you on purpose. And the only way for you to be able to schedule stories, schedule posts with everything filled out correctly, and to be able to do it from a computer instead of just pounding away on a small screen, that has to be through the Creator Studio from Facebook. And the thing is that it has to be a public Facebook. And if you ever want a Facebook page for your show, you need to have a Facebook profile. And it's all centralized there. It's like, dude, this is freaking annoying. I hate it. And I never liked it. It's a gotcha. What you're trying to create is the exact opposite. There are other social media platforms out there that are decentralized, and I'm glad that they are. The only problem is some of them are so sandboxed in that there's no integration with anything else, and that kind of pigeonholes them. And like, I want to see Minds succeed. They have tools. They built into Noster, but they don't really like. I've been asking guys, how do I finish setting up this Noster thing so my Minds can post to Noster and vice versa? I still don't know how to set up the protocol because I can't get the freaking signed thingamajig. And still, months later, still no response. But I am able to at least send over my YouTube whenever it posts. And if you have a big enough following, your X posts. So so there's some integration, but it's like, it's still missing like that one thing. There are two services I want to bring up. One of them is basically now one of the tech graveyards, but the other one is a service that was shown to me. Is like, hey, look, this is a third party app that posts to all these Fediverse or decentralized platforms. So I think it's called Open Vibe. So they post to Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, and Noster. And you could see them all in one place. And like, oh, that's cool. Someone's actually thinking about that because, well,
Mhm.
they're on the Fediverse, so that makes sense. But now imagine you can actually build all that out. That'd be even cooler if you can get other places, but you need to deal with APIs and all that. So there is a service. There was a social media company. I think they're called Floaty. Uh, I think they made a. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to say why they're no longer around because whatever. But after they unfortunately collapsed, they try to come back as a social media management platform. And I haven't heard anything ever since. I would have loved to have seen that. And then there was oh my goodness, there's another one. They just closed their doors this month, which was a bummer. They were the only ones that allowed you to cross post with different media platforms, including True Social. But unfortunately, they also shuttered. And that's why this space is so difficult. And you're saying you've been building this out for 2 years, and you're finally getting to print. This is I want people to understand that's a sizable investment. It's like to succeed where
Yeah.
others have failed, and based on everything that I have seen and everything that I'm hearing now here too, and what you've told me in private about what you intend to build out, it's like I'm rooting for your success, man, and I'm there, and I do want to ride that wave with y'all.
No, I appreciate that, and I think it's interesting too because from the technological standpoint, the main reason why a lot of those people are shutting down their platforms is because platforms like X and Facebook are shutting down their APIs, and even True Social is beginning to do that, and a lot of these other
Yeah.
platforms because again they're trying to close their ecosystem to where you have to rely on them because you've got X Pro, so that way you can schedule out your tweets. So Elon doesn't want another competitor to X Pro that could schedule tweets out or whatever it is. He wants you to use theirs because you have to pay a premium in order to get access to that. And so again, there's this kind of closed ecosystem because that was one of the things that we were originally talking about was could we make it to where if you post on Pickaxe, it immediately posts to Twitter or Facebook and all that? And it's like, well, you used to be able to do that, but not anymore because they're all closing their APIs. They're all closing their ecosystems to where you can't really do that. And so to me, I just think it's one of those things where, from a business standpoint, I get it. From their standpoint, they need to figure out how to get a return on investment, make money. They need to make the most profits they can. Again, I get it. You're running a business, but also at the same time, I think a lot of their practices are actually harming content creators.
Hmm.
It's really interesting. Like I have a lot of friends that are Instagrammers, really big accounts on Instagram because I've been involved in a bunch of different industries and to where I kind of know a wide variety of things about business and how everything works and all that. I've
Hmm.
got a lot of friends on Instagram that have hundreds of thousands of followers on their Instagrams, and I think it was like October of 2021. All of a sudden, Instagram changed their algorithms and to where everybody got screwed unless you were deemed a quote unquote credible source that was seen on like CNN or television or a celebrity or
Yeah.
something like that. So you have people with hundreds of thousands of followers that used to be making a good amount of money on the platform through sponsorship deals, working with brands and all that. And then all of a sudden their engagement just tanks practically
Yeah.
overnight because they changed up their algorithms. They said to combat censorship, but if it affected everybody, not just conservative voices, because they were amplifying particular kinds of accounts and credibility and all that kind of stuff. Like I believe last I saw, if you're posting on Instagram, the algorithms will only allow a max of about 3% of your followers to see any one single post unless you pay to promote your post to your own audience.
It's annoying.
Like it's insane. You're like, I earned all those followers, and all of a sudden you're telling me that I have to pay you in order for the people that said that they want to see my content to actually see my content. To me, that's it seems like it should be illegal. I'm not calling for more regulation or whatever it is, but to me that seems almost a fraudulent thing of I earned my audience, and now you're telling me that I don't have access to my audience. So again, that's a whole other thing that I don't think a lot of people realize about how these social media platforms are actually working.
Yeah, and it's true that some of my followers, every now and then I'll send it out to some people where I'm like, hey, this is a censorship check. Have you seen this post? They're like, no, are you actually posting to your feed? Turn on notifications, maybe that'll work. Because some of my followers do not see my own posts. But when it comes to trying to boost them through ads, and it's an Instagram thing, because of Facebook, I used to pay for ad space on YouTube, and I did the same for Instagram. I felt I needed that on YouTube because I don't know why I'm not growing until I realized that YouTube itself was the one that's actually silencing me. So like, oh, it's your fault. They say, yeah, you can't run ads, and we're limiting this, but we will still run our own ads on it. It's like, oh, fantastic. That's on you. But when it comes to Instagram, and I told you the business and tech. So I'm talking about real estate, sales side, buying and trade, and of course informing people. So when I try to boost this episode, like this is important real estate knowledge that people need to know. Facebook flagged my ad and said we're not going to approve this because you could be in violation of fair housing rules. It's like I, as a licensed real estate professional, should be worried about that with the Department of Real Estate, not with
Right.
Facebook policing it. So how come I see all these other ads from like Zillow and all these other real estate places on my feed, but I can't boost my post providing actual content that will help consumers? It made no sense to me, and I kind of gave up on that. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just stick to the podcasting thing and see if that will help attract people. And it did. I got in some deals through it, but it's just that's what makes it so difficult to do what we do. It feels like a lot of the walls are closed in, or doors closed, I should say, not walls, because we're not being closed in. But it's just like our options are. I feel like we're running out, which is why I said there's space to innovate here. Even in the podcasting space, I'm in touch with a couple of podcast platforms that I like what they're doing. And it's like I thought that this was stagnant. There was nothing else to do. Like, yes, but there are others that can't do it. Two come to mind. I won't mention them, but they're going in different directions. Like, I like what you're both doing, and then you kind of combine them, it would be even better. But in what you're presenting here, it really it's I don't want to say it's like the all-in-one solution, because I think there'll still be like maybe a thing or two there.
Yeah.
And like you said, because people ask you, oh, about live streaming. It's like, well, why not where the audience already is, instead of having to build it out from scratch? If you're on Rumble, then boom. And what is Rumble doing? YouTube disconnected the app that they helped build with Rumble, where you can synchronize the posts. So if you're on YouTube, it'll post to Rumble. If it's on Rumble, it'll post to YouTube. Well, because YouTube hates for Rumble's growth, they killed the tool. Uh, and well, that sucks. But one of the things that I like about what Rumble's done is Rumble Studio, where now you can stream multiple different platforms for free, by the way. And it's really awesome. And I even told them, it's like, hey, I know I'm a premium member, but I leave the Rumble Studio logo up there. I love it. No, it looks good. It's a way to promote the platform. And it's like, there are others trying to find these solutions, and true free speech, by the way. That's what really matters, because the only way any of this can work is if you are standing by those principles. Otherwise, you know what? I don't like what you're saying, and you can still lose your livelihood. That's been the number one reason why people are losing their livelihoods, because of those draconian measures. And you're committed to free speech on your platform, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Like I always say with Pickaxe, we're a completely free speech platform. If it's legal speech, you're allowed to say it, even if people don't like it, people are offended, whatever it is. As long as you're not calling for violence or behaving in terroristic activity or whatever it is. It's like you're allowed to say even pretty awful things, because that's free speech. Free speech is messy. The First Amendment is messy, and it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people have a weird understanding of the First Amendment. And I think we've been conditioned this by the mainstream media and by our politicians and by the education system, because the way that our founding fathers set it up was that you have freedom of speech and freedom of the press. That's all a part of the First Amendment. But the First Amendment, literally, it posts both of those, and I think a lot of times we combine those two to just mean free speech. It's like, no, there's freedom of speech, and that was the understanding that in that time you could go down to your local town square, and you could verbally air your grievances. You could state an opinion, try to convince people or whatever you want without any restriction or limitation from the government. And same thing goes for freedom of the press. The idea was, it wasn't just that you were going to have a handful of licensed journalists and with credentials that were able to go around and say whatever they want without restriction. No, it was that you as an individual had the right to write out your grievances or make a compelling case about something that was important to you. Go down to your local printing press, print off a bunch of flyers, and distribute it freely without limitation from the government. So what the modern day version of that would be writing articles, writing blogs, posting on social media. That would technically be considered freedom of press, according to the way our founding fathers interpreted that and defined that in the early days of our country. And so what's happening right now, and this is one of my biggest critiques of Elon, to kind of bring it back full circle to what we were talking about earlier, is they literally have a policy in X's terms and conditions called freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means you're allowed to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that they have to allow anybody to see it. And I always use this metaphor of, it's as if Elon Musk set up a stage in the middle of New York Times Square and said, I'm gonna have a free speech event. You can get up on stage, there's speakers, there's a microphone, there's soundboard, the whole deal. You can get up there, you can say whatever you want, and I'm not gonna shut you down. I'm not gonna silence you. I'm not gonna tell you to stop talking. You can say whatever you want to the microphone. And you get up there, you start talking, and he hits the mute button. Or he just turns down the volume to be lower than everybody else. And you're like, dude, what happened? I thought this was a free speech platform. You said I could say whatever I want. He's like, you can, but that doesn't, I never said what I'm going to have the volume set at. I never said whether I'm going to have the mute button on or not. And that's part of the problem that we have here. And everybody's like, no, but Elon's a free speech platform, because you're still allowed to say whatever you want. He just didn't make any promises about, your reach or your ability to be seen. And it's like, well, if you actually are going to call yourself a free speech platform, but then you're going to limit speech, that's not free speech. Even if you're allowing it to be said, if there are conditions on it or there are limitations on it, then all of a sudden you can no longer call yourself a free speech platform any more than if the government in the early days of America was telling some people, you can only print 20 pamphlets, but because you're saying this, but somebody else can print 100 pamphlets because they're saying this, and then you go distribute it. That was limitation on your free speech and freedom of the press. You could not call yourself a free speech country any more than X can call themselves a free speech platform. And so by definition, you cannot be a free speech platform if you limit speech that is outside of your Overton window, which X does if you actually look at their algorithms and their source code.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been evident for anybody that's been following any news in the past 30 days as we record this. It's been very disappointing, but at the same time, it's like, I told you so. It's like it just really felt like a lot of that. I told you so. So I hate that. But you saw that very early on, and you were preparing for this, and you're on the pre-launch phase. Was it beta then pre-launch, or pre-launch and then beta? What is it?
So we had beta. That was where we were working out all the kinks, making sure we had the infrastructure all right and ready and all that kind of stuff. And then we transitioned to pre-launch. And so right now we're kind of in this phase. We're onboarding a bunch of content creators. We're in the process of developing the smartphone app and all of that. And then, so basically right now we're kind of in this building phase. And then once we release the app, we're going to be officially launched. And that's, we're going to do a huge, big marketing push, PR push, the whole deal. And so right now we're technically pre-launch, which, we're just inviting people to come on, start building now. And then that way, once we officially launch, that's especially when it comes to content creators, that way you can hit the ground running, with our monetization and revenue share model and all that kind of stuff. And so it will behoove you now to build your platform on Pickax now, you're building for the future, as opposed to just waiting until we officially launch everything. So
Gotcha. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And for anybody, any content creator that's out there that's interested, well, I know there's no upfront fees or anything to get on this platform, but what can they expect? They can sign up, they can get verified. It's a pretty painless process to do, but they can do that, and just I guess they're already in pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you sign up. I encourage everybody to get verified, and this is why we have the verification process, I'm making it free for a particular reason. Is that I'm trying to push human beings, because if you actually if you go over and look at Meta. Meta is investing $65 billion right now into developing artificial intelligence for the purpose of replacing content creators. So what they're actually doing is they're using AI to have AI generated influencers, which is crazy. And
Yeah.
so if you actually look at their statements coming from the executives at Meta, is that these AI generated influencers are going to hold space on the platform the same as as human being creators. And so eventually they're going to replace them. I was talking with an expert when it came to that's always following stocks and how businesses are working in all these big corporations. And they're saying their goal is within 5 years to basically replace human creators with practically all AI generated content creators on the platform, specifically so that way they don't have to pay creators anything anymore. Because now they're all of a sudden now they're going to save billions of dollars because they don't have to do revenue share, because they control everything. And guess what? All the AI generated creators, they're going to stick to the party lines. They're going to stick with the narratives that they need. They're going to stick with things that are going to work for their advertisers. They're never going to have to censor their AI, content creators, because they're all going to be within the Meta control Overton window. So that's crazy. Now all of a sudden we're all going to be influenced by bots. Whereas I want to weed out the bots, so that way you're not having the CIA or Russia or China running bot farms, to be able to influence narratives on Pickaxe. No, because you're getting verified. As soon as you get verified, that's the only way that you can be recommended within profiles, or be able to trend in our trending tabs. If you're not verified, you'll never be able to trend. You're not going to be seen unless somebody specifically goes to search you out. So that means on Pickaxe, you're not going to have the bot farms like you have on X, where probably something like 70 to 80% of the accounts on X are bots, are run by AI or bot farms. Probably a lot of CIA, Russia, China, bot farms that are running over there. So I'm trying to make it to where now, if somebody has a blue check mark, they're verified, which means they're an actual human being, and it's not just they're paying $10 a month. Like for example, me on X, I have a few different accounts because of a couple different businesses and different things like that. They're all verified, but they didn't do any kind of background check on any of them. I just pay them, however much money a month, and all of a sudden they have a blue check mark. Well,
Really?
lots of people do that, and then all of a sudden now you have one person that's running 5, 10, 15 accounts, and I know multiple people that have multiple accounts that are all verified, that are anonymous accounts. It's crazy.
Fascinating.
So for me, I want to build a platform of humans. So if you go on there, get verified. That's the first thing that I recommend everybody to do. Go over to the settings tab. Once you become verified, then you could apply to become a content creator, which means that you'd be able to offer a subscription to where you could put stuff behind a paywall. And then you would also be able to participate in our revenue share model, which we're going to be rolling out officially at the official launch. But we're taking a different approach there as well, to where we're being very specific with our advertisers on the platform, towards people that I know and I trust. And we're not just, paying for, random people to, post things.
Yeah.
And so we're actually getting paid based upon converted sales from our ads, which is going to entice us in order to have compelling ads that are relevant. But here's the really cool thing: I don't have to collect your data in order to target ads, because what we're going to do with this platform, with our ads, and especially as we continue to grow, is we're not going to target our ads based upon the user behavior. We're going to target our ads based upon the type and the genre of content that's being posted by the content creators, which means I don't have to collect anybody's data. I don't have to track you. I don't have to have a cookie. I don't have to do anything like Facebook. Literally, I'll talk on the phone, and then I go onto Facebook and they're advertising what I was talking about on the phone.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's crazy. But what we can do is we can say, well, look, one of our advertisers is the wellness company. if people are talking about the COVID jabs or health or nutrition or whatever it is, they're probably going to be more interested in the wellness company products. Whereas if somebody's talking about election fraud, maybe they'd be more interested in MyPillow. Or if somebody's talking about politics, maybe it's going to be, this other product. We can target our ads based upon the genre and the topic, as opposed to your data. So I don't have to collect anybody's data to actually target ads. To me, it's a no-brainer, but they've made so much money on collecting everybody's data.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I like everything that I'm hearing, but I am curious. Pickaxe, where did the name come from?
Yeah, it was funny. We were sitting around and kind of brainstorming with several of our a couple of our founders and our tech team and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, somebody just threw out the name, and we're like, because I didn't want something on the nose. I wanted something that wasn't just like, free speech social, I'm not going to go down that route, right?
Yeah.
And so with Pickaxe, I kind of was toying with it for a little bit, and I was like, I can play with that. So I wanted something that could be verbed. So like on the platform, if you like something, you pick it. If you don't, you axe it. And so we have a little pick button and an axe button on there. So if you don't like something, you axe it. If you like it, you pick it. And so we kind of were able to verb the name, but then also too, it's also emoting a more like get in there and like physical manual labor kind of mentality, as opposed to the streamlined elitist tech kind of stuff. It's like, we're getting in there and we're doing the hard work of free speech, of discussion, of debate, of nuanced conversations. We're leaning into the long form content with the articles, to where it's not just the quick hits that you see on X, where it's just getting everybody inflamed and over the top, clickbait kind of stuff. It's like you actually have to post quality content on the platform if you're going to get somewhere. And we're trying to encourage that more conversational discussion, debate, nuanced conversations, which is a lot more intensive than maybe some of the other platforms. So there's that side of things. And then we're also, just picking away at the control that big tech has over us. And so, there's kind of a multifaceted definition of meaning behind the name.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. And it's synonymous with breaking ground too. So I really
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Totally.
I had other things that I probably could have brought up, but I like where the flow of conversation went, and I like what we covered and what you mentioned about the AI influencers that Meta is basically generating. I'm going to be leaving a link to your podcast where you dive deep into that. So for anybody interested, I'll be leaving those in the show notes. Copy this episode at theundersegovia.com. And I think this is a good place to wrap. So Jeff, I know it's pickaxe.com, but tell the audience where they can also follow you to stay up to date with the imminent launch of Pickaxe.
Yeah, again, I encourage everybody, go set up your account now over on pickaxe.com, get verified, go through the whole process. If you're a content creator, apply to be a content creator. We'll get you approved really, really quickly and roll all of that out as well. But you can find me, I'm on all the socials. Pickaxe is quickly, obviously, become my primary. But, I've got my own show, the Jeff Dornik Show, you guys can tune into. In general, I'm trying to live stream every day at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You go to look up Maverick Broadcasting Network on Rumble, and then that way you guys can subscribe to that. You guys get notified when any of our shows go live. So we've got the Jeff Dornik Show. Matt Couch is going to have a show. Ann Vandersteel's with us as well. We're bringing on Teddy Daniels. I'm talking to Tina Forte, talking to a whole bunch of different people that we're bringing on to be a part of that network. And so, I highly encourage you guys to check that out. And then you guys can also find me on Substack as well, jeffdornik.substack.com. And that way you guys get notified. I'll keep you guys all in the loop when it comes to further developments, especially when it comes to Pickaxe. So.
Excellent. And all my listeners and watchers, you guys know the drill. All the links that are mentioned here will be available at the Channel Companies episode at theundersegovia.com. Jeff, thank you very much for being on the Under Segovia show. It was a pleasure having you on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Pickaxe does.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it.